welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Ali.
And I'm Sara.
And it is International Edition, if you can't guess by Sara's shirt.
I finally wore something on theme. And it was really easy because I have a lot of US Women's National Team stuff. This specifically, I'll show you around. Here we have the 4 stars. I've got 4 stars on my shirt. This was the shirt that they wore after they won in 2019. If anybody remembers the ticker tape parade in New York, I do. This is what they were wearing.
Barely.
I do, because I couldn't get out of work to get there. And I booked a conference room to desperately stream it and watch it on my computer and be sad that I wasn't there, even though I was like probably a 20-minute walk away from where it was happening.
That's sad times.
But what a shirt. Did you come prepared for international?
I'm not wearing international. I'm wearing a Manchester Laces shirt, and I'm wearing the rainbow Manchester Laces shirt.
Oh, fair enough. You know what? You got to pass because it's Manchester Laces and it's rainbow.
Exactly. That was my argument. So I was like, doing that.
Were you not feeling proud enough to represent the Lionesses after what happened against Brazil?
I don't have one. I realised this when I was looking. I don't have an England shirt. I don't have an England. I have a Germany shirt. I have an America shirt. I don't have an England shirt.
Do you have a scarf?
Okay, let me just lean over and I will grab my scarf. So I have my England women's scarf.
England women, there we are.
Which was bought for me by my friend's dad when we went to see England versus Brazil in Nottingham before the World Cup in 2019. So there we go. That ties it all in together.
We should at one point just do a scarves episode and we can go through and share our scarves with each other.
Funny enough, I have many West Ham, a couple of England, and then randomly a Seattle Sounders one.
At some point, we'll dig into the history and the history of the culture of the scarf in the world of football. Because why football supporters have chosen a scarf as like the main item, I'm still not sure about. But at some point, maybe we'll dive into the history of it.
That will be a Patreon episode. We will do the history of the football scarf and why half and half scarves are the devil and should never be a thing.
The only people who are ever allowed to wear half and half jerseys or scarves are parents of players with one on either side. And this is a very rare occurrence. It occurs sometimes, but that is the only, or I guess, no, that's the only occurrence. That's the only occurrence.
I would say so. I think that is the only reason to ever have a half and half.
Otherwise, pick a side or just don't wear the colors at all. Just be neutral. Okay, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about international break because it's here. And as we mentioned last week, the U.S. Women's National Team is playing 3 matches. As of when you are listening to this, hopefully the day it drops on Wednesday, 2 out of those 3 have been played. The third is being played tonight, Wednesday night. As for England, 1 of the 2 has been played at our time of recording. They're playing the second game on Tuesday, which would have been yesterday if you're listening to this on Wednesday when it drops. So we're going to talk about England versus Brazil. Ooh, there's a lot to say on that one, Allie. And then we're going to talk about both of the U.S. Women's National Team games against Portugal. And we've got a special segment of Around the World because so much more happened in the world of international football than just your Lionesses and my U.S. Women's National Team. That needs to be covered. So we're going to dive into all of it there. And I'm very excited.
I'm excited when we get to that because I threw in a rogue one and I don't think Sarah's seen it yet. So this will be fun.
I haven't. It'll be a live reaction. All right, let's do it. Over to England, we're going to talk about the reigning 2-time European champions who didn't really play like it against Brazil. So sorry. It was England against Brazil. Brazil won 2-1 in Manchester. It was in Manchester, Allie. Were you there in person?
I wasn't. I was getting tattooed at the time.
Priorities, I suppose.
Indeed.
Were you watching it while you got tattooed at least?
I was watching it while I got tattooed.
Did you do that on purpose by chance so you could have something to watch while you were getting tattooed?
Exactly.
Very smart. I see what you did there. All right. Look, there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot to cover here. I'm not sure where to begin. Maybe I want to start with, I'm not looking at the notes you wrote down. I'm so sorry. Because I'm going to start with what I want to start with. And then I'll look at the notes you wrote down. The first thing I want to say is you got what you wanted in terms of goalkeepers, which is you got some youngsters in goal, i.e. Kiara Keating got the start.
Yes. If you did read my notes, I said I would have chosen Morehouse, but beggars can't be choosers.
Well, there's another game. Don't you worry.
So that was my main thing, was the fact that I was like, I would have chosen Morehouse, but I was very happy. I mean, not happy because it was because of injury, but I'm very happy that we got another goalkeeper. We finally will be able to take 2 capped goalkeepers on a tournament.
Hooray, hurrah. Okay. Listen, there's a lot to discuss here. Brazil scored 2 goals in the first, I want to say 20 minutes. Yeah, I was going to say if it wasn't 20, it was maybe 21 or 22. But it was not looking great for England off of the jump. And you can't help but look at one of those goals. And I'm gonna spin this in the positive way, and as to not appear to be ragging on one player, because that's not what this is meant to do. What this is meant to do is bring back the conversation we had last week about Maya Letitia being the currently best center back in the WSL, obviously, arguably, but at the very least, one of the best center backs in the WSL. And she does not get the start at center back.
No, she does not. She is put in at right back because Serena sees her as a right back.
Which she said, and we talked about last week, but I still was sitting here being like, no, but like she'll probably play center back. And you were like, no, she's not going to play center back. And what do you know? she didn't play center back. Serena didn't lie to us on the press conference. And listen, the center backs fully got beat for at the very least, if I'm being generous, at the very least, that first goal.
Yeah, and to be honest, I would also put a little bit of blame on the midfield because I think it was a miscommunication between Walsh and Morgan, which led to that first goal. And that's what it is.
Well, also, Jess Carter just got outpaced, pure and simple, which happened a lot in the Euros as well. And so nobody's really surprised to see that happen once again.
Yeah, exactly. It basically was what happened in the Euros, happened again against Brazilian speed.
How frustrating was it to watch that, see that goal go in, and still see Maya Letitia not get moved to center back? What do you think needs to happen for Maya Letitia to move to center back?
Lucy Bronze to be fully fit so that she can play a full 90 minutes. Then she'll get moved to centre back, because clearly Serena sees Letitia as Bronze's successor at right back. I think that's very dumb, but what do I know? I've not won 2 back-to-back Euros, or 3 back-to-back Euros it was. But yeah, because as soon as we moved her to centre-back, we looked much more focused and steady. Obviously, Bronze came in at right back, and we didn't concede once we did that.
Yeah. Listen, but this does bring up another question and kind of another glaring hole that is about to present itself within the Lionesses squad. Obviously, we don't know what Lucy Bronze's plans are. Maybe she will play in Brazil, but maybe she won't. And there is a massive gaping hole at right back when she is not in the game. And you can almost begin to understand kind of where Serena's coming from by putting such a strong defender at right back, because that is a massive gaping hole. So it's not just about the center backs, but also like, who is the successor to Lucy Bronze? That is equally a big question, if not a bigger question, I think, that needs to be answered. And I don't think it's Maya Letitia.
No, I don't think it's Maya Letitia. I will say, at time of recording, Serena has brought in Anouk Denton, West Ham right back, as an option, because there's been some niggles in camp. So I'm excited to see that, and if she'll get any minutes. I think, and I said this before, I think these friendlies are a great time, which is why I can't be too mad at this performance, because we got some rotation, we got some new players in the squad, which we haven't had in a long time. I would love to see these 4 friendlies that have no bearing on anything to be the time that we play about with formations and look at what happens for when Lucy Bronze eventually retires. Do I think she's going to Brazil? Yes, because I think you'd have to break her. Well, I was going to say break her legs, but she played anyway.
I don't know what you would have to do. I don't know. Exactly. I don't think there's anything you can do. Yeah,
exactly. So I do hope we are using this, but you're right. The right back situation is a situation.
Yeah, it's a situation for sure. Listen, the second goal conceded, LSU dispossessed in the middle of the field as well. That one, midfield wasn't looking quite as strong. As you said, it's hard to assess these games. Like, I'll say this a lot when we come onto the U.S. Women's national team. So I'm trying to remind myself to like have that same perspective with England. But I feel like I'm being a lot harsher with you guys for some reason. Perhaps it's because you look across the board at this lineup, and the majority of the lineup is the lineup that won the Euros, so I feel like I kind of expect more. It's easy to sit and see a lineup with like a bunch of 20-year-olds who've barely set foot on an international pitch at the senior level and be like, okay, well, we can go a little easy on this performance. But you look at this lineup, it's Greenwood, it's Walsh, it's Carter, it's Morgan, it's Mead, Stanway, Russo, Toon, Kelly. Like, you know, you look at that starting lineup and you expect a little bit more. But I hear what you're saying. There were a lot of rotations. We got to see some youth. I personally would have liked to see more. I think England were lucky to come away with even one goal, to be totally honest. That was not a penalty kick at all whatsoever.
Correct. But also, when you look at it, Brazil won the Copa America.
Oh, listen, we haven't gone on to Brazil. I agree. We need to give credit where credit is due. Yeah.
I want to give credit. Like, I do want to give credit because a lot of people are like, it's just Brazil. I'm like, no. There is no just Brazil.
What are you living in? 2005? There hasn't been a just Brazil since then.
Exactly.
Or when did Marta's career start? Since before that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, no. You got to give it. But you're right. Like, but then were we that convincing in the Euros? No.
Fair. Well, let's talk about Brazil. Let's talk about them because this is a team we've talked about so much, Allie, and if you flash back 2 years ago, I had them picked to, that's right, win the entire 2023 Women's World Cup, which we laugh at, but also I think is not. I had really good reasoning. They had a bit of a crash out.
I wouldn't go that far. I would say you had reasoning. I wouldn't say that you had good.
I had really good reasoning for sure. I had good reasoning. No, but this is a strong Brazilian side, and they seem to just not just get better, but they seem to bring more and more young talent into the fold in a really great way. And they're building towards 2027 in a way that's a little terrifying for everybody else.
Yeah, no, they were absolutely phenomenal. They played those first 20 minutes to absolute perfection. They saw how to get past England and like how to pull apart the centre backs and pull apart that midfield. And you know what? That first goal was such a crossbar rattler. Like, I don't think anybody would have got a hand to that goal. Mm-mm. Like, it was absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, the second one took a bit of a deflection, but to get the ball in the first place, pickpocketing Toon was just something else. So they were phenomenal for the first 20 minutes. They had a bit of a moment of madness.
Yeah, but like even with that, so Brazil got a red card. Was it? I'm not looking at my notes. Was it Angelina? I believe
it was Angelina. It was a shirt pull on Toon.
Yeah, who was? And it was definitely like a last defender type of situation. It was a straight red, understandably so. That was pretty early in the first half, and Brazil still held their own the entire rest of the game.
Yeah, and we've spoken about it before, and we're seeing it again that the Brazilian manager is very big on talent from Brazil playing in Brazil. So we're seeing a lot of their internationals. There's a couple, you know, obviously Marta and I believe Angelina play outside of Brazil, but the majority of that squad mainly play for Corinthians, actually, but they play in Brazil.
Yeah, well, he's the former coach of Corinthians. He knows not just that team, but he obviously knows the entire structure and the makeup of all of the highest tier women's clubs in Brazil, and it's showing because he's calling in all of the right players and he's developing the squad so well. And I bet we're going to be sitting here in 4 years' time saying, remember when Arthur Elias took over as head coach? That was the start of the rise of club soccer in Brazil, because it just takes one, and their national team's boosting. And I really think after this World Cup, their club football is going to take off in this world, and they deserve all of the credit for sure. That doesn't take away the mistakes of England, but they do deserve all the credit for sure.
No, they need to have the credit because, like I said, I don't want it to be just that, oh, well, it was just Brazil, because there is no just Brazil. Like, they were phenomenal and they, you know, executed everything to perfection, you know, even going down to 10 players, you'd think that could have rattled another squad, but they just held on. So fair play to Brazil. because if you look at the stats, England had more shots, 18-10, both had 3 on target. England had much more possession. They looked at touches in the opposition area. It was like 430 for England, 130 for Brazil. But it's at the end of the day, it's what you do with the ball and getting it in the back of the net.
They've been lethal. They've been lethal on a counterattack. They're a dynamic team. They can go up and down. They can go back and forth. I'm really excited to continue to watch Brazil. I always am excited to watch Brazil play, though.
I was going to say, when are you not?
It's just, especially in recent years, like before you watch Brazil for a lot of individual talent, and now you watch Brazil for all of it, because there's the individual talent and there's the ability to like have that within the team structure, and it's been gorgeous. Do you want to try to predict the future for Tuesday, which is the past for those who are listening right now? Do you want to see how right you're going to get it, or what you hope to see instead of predicting? Is that better?
Yeah, so I would love to see more mixing and matching, because like I said, these games don't mean anything. So this is a great opportunity. Finally, I've been calling for these friendlies.
Allie's like, why did we have the Euros? No. But truly, in the lead up to the Euros, let me just say, for like an entire year, you were like, I wish these games didn't mean anything. I get why you can't experiment and bring in youth right now because you have to build towards something, but I really wish that we could. And now here we are, post Euros, enough pre-World Cup where you can. Now's the moment for sure, because in a year's time from now, experimentation time is over. It's time to really start nailing down the squad. Yep.
Exactly. So I would love to see someone other than Leticia at right back. I don't know who that would be, but I would like to see it.
Let's have a little ponder on this, though, for a second. Is there anybody that you feel like might appear that Sarina hasn't thought of yet? Maybe somebody in the WSL that could develop within the next year that could get brought in? When you think through the right backs.
Well, like I said, she's brought in Anouk Denton, and yes, there is a little bit of West Ham bias there, but she has been playing in the unders, and this is her first senior call-up. So she has been, with the unders 19s and 23s, so I think this would be a good shout. Obviously she's injured at the moment, but Lottie Wubben-Moy for Arsenal does play in that position, so that would be a good shout for when she's fit. I like Leticia as a centre-back, and the idea of seeing when she's fit Leah Williamson and Leticia as the centre-back pairing, that's what I want for the England future.
For all we know, that's what Sarina wants. But it doesn't seem like that right now.
I was going to say, I don't think that's true.
Okay, I interrupted you. Go back to what you want for Tuesday.
So I would love to see Taylor Hines get a shout, because obviously she controversially was England, then Jamaica, back to England. So that would be great to see. I would love the armband to go to Greenwood this time instead of Walsh. I have nothing against Kira Walsh. I think Kira Walsh is a phenomenal midfielder. I don't think she's captain material.
Allie, you literally, I didn't hear you, but you literally said, no offense to her, nothing against her, but she's not captain material. Like, that's a crazy thing to say.
She's too quiet. She's far too quiet. I like a mouthy captain. I like someone that you can hear on the pitch. And she barely said 2 words in that game.
How do you know that?
Because you watch the footage. You watch the footage, and if I can't hear them, then it's over.
You have such specifics about how you feel about your captaincies, because you don't like a goalkeeper captain. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, okay, big no on that one. Okay, I don't mind a quieter captain. I think a captain that leads by example on the pitch is totally fine with me, as long as you are approachable and know how to open your mouth on the training pitch. Fine by me, but. Hey, to each their own.
No, I like a mouthy captain.
I personally just wouldn't mind Alex Greenwood as a captain, because I think she's a great leader. That's it for me. And
she does it at City all the time. I think that's the other thing, is the fact that she is constantly the captain, because she's captain at club. So I would like to see, because again, you've got to now see who's going to be vice captain, because vice captain Millie Bright is over and out, has retired. Williamson will remain. We'll keep the captaincy when she's fit, but you need to have that backup. And I think Greenwood is probably the one. And again, youth. I would love to see some swap outs for Russo. I would love to see Michelle Adjiman get a start. I would love to see Aggie Beaver-Jones get the start. Basically, I would like to see a lot more experimentation.
Yeah, I want to see Jessica Naz in there. I would love to see, kind of everybody on the bench. I would love to see. I want to see, Kearns, Fisk, Hines, Charles. I would like to see everybody, in the game for sure.
Because we've got to start, like you said, we've got to start nailing down what our best 11's going to be, and we can't do that without experimenting.
All right. We have looked into the crystal ball, not really, but in the crystal ball of hope. And for those listening on Wednesday, you're either cringing because Allie just didn't get what they wanted, or you're smiling because Allie got exactly what they wanted. And time will tell. We'll just have to do international part 2 next week, right, Allie?
Yay!
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on the Lionesses before we move it along?
I just would like to call people, just be like, guys, chill. Okay, it was one game.
We're in that moment. I feel like every fan base has that moment. Yeah,
we're in that moment where everybody's freaking out, and I'm like, guys, it was one game. Let's just calm down.
Yeah,
and then we'll get there.
We'll get onto this, but this is, I feel like, the work that Emma Hayes has been quietly or not so quietly doing with the
I was going to say,
entirety.
Emma Hayes and quiet doesn't even
not so quietly. Steadily, maybe, is the word, doing with the entirety of the U.S. Women's National Team fan base. I feel like in every press conference, she's like, okay, let me explain something to you guys. And then she very, not so subtly, basically says, let me once again explain that there are a bunch of players with a ton of caps, a bunch of players with no caps, and there's really no in between. So what do we have to do, everybody? Say it with me. We have to get the players with no caps to get caps. And how does that go? It's not going to be pretty sometimes. And she says that every single press conference, and it's like talking to preschoolers. But now that I feel like this is going to sound a little demeaning. I don't mean it like that. Now that England have won a couple of European championships back to back, I feel like the expectation of winning every single match has really been placed on this team now. They're under a lot more pressure than I think they were in the past to win. And that doesn't really matter if it's a friendly or not. And I think that's maybe a newer world for the Lionesses to live in. So it's a newer world for the fans to be living in. And it is important, speaking as somebody who's been lectured by Emma Hayes every single time, to stop living in that. Maybe to, release the pressure. Allie, stop listening. Have you stopped listening to me?
No, I was listening.
Okay. Yeah, tell me what you didn't like about it. I can tell something on your face.
No, I agree. I actually agree.
Well, did I take it too far by saying that you guys have just started winning a lot?
Yeah, a little bit. Okay. Bit. That's what did me, and I was like, excuse you.
Tell me how that's not true, though.
In what recent history?
England, I don't know. Tell me what you won other than the She Believes Cup before 2022.
The Arnold Cup. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry.
We got to finals and stuff. So,
okay. Yeah.
So, and totally. And we were constantly in semi-finals.
We were in semi-finals also. Okay.
Yeah, and we got the bronze medal in the 2015 World Cup. So,
and it's not laughable, but that's fair. That's fair. Fair. Okay.
Yeah. We can't all be 4 stars. Okay.
Oh, I love that conversation. Let's leave it there.
Yeah, where did you finish in the last World Cup? Remind me.
How many world championships do you have? Say it with me. 0. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world. Alternate edition.
To Wales, and this week saw the last time Jess Fishlock would don a shirt for the Dragons, a true legend of the game with 165 caps and 48 goals for her country. Having taken the Welsh club to their first major tournament this year, Fishlock announced it was time for her to retire. Unfortunately, her last game against Australia did result in a loss for the Welsh side.
So because this is an alternate edition, or it is an alternate edition because we're just going to talk about these things afterwards because it warrants it, or all of these do. Did you see the Welsh team throwing her up in the air after the game?
Yes.
Of all of the legends retiring right now, and there's a lot of them, and I had a realization moment watching the U.S. Women's National Team that I was officially older than the oldest person on the active U.S. Women's National Team roster, which... I'm just like, I feel like this is such a wave of just, I don't know, the era of women's football that we've watched for the past 10, 15 years. And Jess Fishlock has been like such a huge part of it. This one hurt me in a different kind of way because this is a player that, and we like, I say this with all of the respect in the world to both Wales and to Jess Fishlock. Had she been on an international team that made it to major tournaments consistently and made it far in major tournaments consistently, I mean, she could have and should have won like a FIFA Best 11 award at many points in her career. She just was that outstanding through the entirety of her career.
I feel like we're going to be saying this about Kim Little when Kim Little eventually retires.
I feel like we've already said it about Kim Little. I mean, and what Jess Fishlock has done for the Wales football program in general is...
I was going to say, I want to really highlight that because I feel like it doesn't get put across to specifically, I will say American listeners, because there has always been, because you guys led the way in terms of funding and like feeding women's sport. You guys have, like, let's be honest. So like, there's a reason you have your 4 stars, and because you guys have had that, it's a big thing, you know, you've got the collegiate soccer, and that like leads on to a very progressive and successful women's sport. We don't have that program here. So Jess Fishlock is the last of a certain generation who will have worked like 2-3 jobs to pay for kit. They will have lived through the age of not getting boot sponsors and having to pay subs and having to like pay for your own transport to get to away games, to play in tournaments and things like that. So she's the last of that sort of generation, and her like progress and her career has led to things such as Wales going to the Euros for the first time, has led to the Welsh FA actually investing in their women's team so that they can carry on by putting in coaches that have a certain pedigree rather than anybody who's just willing to take the job. Her impact for Welsh girls is phenomenal and so far-reaching, I don't think people understand that.
I've got nothing to add. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, let's keep it moving because in kind of opposite news over in Spain, Jenni Hermoso has returned to the Spanish national side after an absence. The 35-year-old was omitted from the Euro side despite being involved in the qualifiers. She came back on as a substitute in Spain's game against Sweden, in which they won 4-0. And this is a Spain side as well now with a new head coach. So if you'll remember, it was the one who shall not be named, Jorge Vilda. He was obviously fired for obvious reasons we won't go back into. And then Montse Tomé was his successor, who was his assistant coach and just equally part of all of the problems. And she was fired after their performance in the Euros. And thus in August 2025, Sonia Bermúdez has been appointed as the brand new head coach. Jury's still out on her. We could do a deep dive on her maybe next week. But that is not the important thing. But that does give everybody a little bit of the context of now who the Spanish national team is under, at least in terms of a head coach. They are still obviously under the Spanish Federation. But Jenni Hermoso, back on the pitch, Ali.
Yeah, and it was actually quite sweet. She talked about how she cried when she got the call up again because she was like, I knew I would be back, but like to actually hear my name being called, that I was going to go play in these games. These actually do mean something because this is the semi-finals, I want to say, of Nations League.
Yeah, I was going to say this wasn't just a friendly, this was Nations League.
Yeah, so this actually meant a lot, and they won 4-0 against a very strong Swedish side, so this was huge to have her back, and I think she just adds something to a Spanish side, which I swear that's what they were missing in the Euros, because she may not play all 90 minutes, but she's such a figurehead, and we talked about with England needing that leadership. Hermoso's that, so having her back can only be great for the Spanish team.
She's not just a leader, but she's an impact player. And off of the bench, she's an impact sub. She will make an impact on this squad. You could argue that she was one of, if not the most important player when they won the World Cup 2 years ago. They absolutely were missing her in the Euros. I guess I'll note, just because we were talking very shortly about Sonia Bermúdez, who is the brand new head coach. She spent her entire career playing in Spain. She played for the Spain U19 and then for the Spain national team, senior national team. She only stopped playing for the senior national team in 2019. So somebody like Jenny Hermoso would have overlapped and played with her, which is interesting in and of itself. And then her managerial career, she spent 2 years with the Spain U19 team, 2 years with the Spain U20 team, 1 year with Spain U23, and then has taken over quite the rise in the ranks.
I was going to say, you're telling me that she actually has experience?
So we'll see how this goes. But yeah, you mentioned Jenny Hermoso and her reaction to it. If you haven't seen it on Instagram and you're listening to this, I recommend going to Jenny Hermoso's page because she posted something really beautiful. It's in Spanish. If you don't speak Spanish, obviously just hit the translate button, and it was a beautiful post.
To Afghanistan. A momentous day in women's football as we saw Afghanistan's women's team compete in a tournament in Morocco despite the ban on women's sport in their home country. The team were formed in exile and are officially known as Afghan Women United. Unfortunately, they did lose their first match against Chad, but they are still in the tournament.
Wow.
This is huge. This is huge.
Oh, yeah. It's massive. Also, FIFA reported on this, by the way. Did you know this? This is on the FIFA website. It's just kind of wild to me. I feel like FIFA would, for some reason, I think of FIFA as evil, and thus I'm thinking, why would FIFA report on this beautiful moment?
I was going to say, why would they report on good news? But this is huge. So they are.
I guess it is good propaganda for FIFA. Yeah. Continue though. Let's not make it about FIFA.
No. So they were formed what's known as under exile, which means that they won't play, train, or really live in Afghanistan since the Taliban took over in 2021. There has been a ban on women participating in sport. So this is a big FU to the Taliban that they have formed this team. And this is the first time they're competing in a tournament. And this is absolutely massive. And they are just paving the way for Afghan girls that do want to play sport because they are showing it can be done.
I need to fact check myself on this, which I will do immediately after I say it. I believe, and you kind of threw a curveball because I didn't know this exact data point, but I've loosely followed this team in different regards, which is why I can say this and then fact check myself. I believe you can purchase one of their jerseys and all of those funds go directly to them to support their squad. We will now pause while I fact check this data. And we are back. Confirmed, yes, you can purchase one of their jerseys, and confirmed that if you purchase it through certain brands, for example through the company, I believe it's pronounced Hummel, Hummel. Hummel, yeah, those proceeds are then going to be donated to the team. I can't confirm if you purchase through any other site, but I do know if you purchase through Hummel, all of those proceeds go to the squad. And I really love the jersey also. I know that's less important here, but it's also a cute jersey.
I was going to say, maybe I'll get it and then I can wear it for one of my many records.
Just to go back quickly, Allie, this is, I mean, you mentioned it, how important this is, how wild this is. I think people in countries like ours, for example, who've been investing in women's soccer for a very long time can hardly fathom the idea of going into exile to play football. These women are literally heroes. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's true.
No, it's absolutely true. And they were allowed to play in the hijab if they really wanted to as well, which has been a whole controversial thing.
Why that's a thing we don't even need to get into. Play in a hijab, or don't. It whatever, right?
But they were allowed to, which is a huge thing.
I got fired up.
But they were allowed to, which is huge. So, yeah, all in all, it is a momentous day in women's sport.
You want to take this last one?
Yeah, I'll take this last one because it's just what I've labelled assorted.
Yeah, I saw the word assorted and I was like, not sure. Allie, you go.
So, in other friendlies, Mexico beat New Zealand 1-0, Switzerland beat Canada 1-0, Poland held the Netherlands to a 0-0 draw, and Italy drew with Japan 1-1. Over now to Sarah's beloved US women's national team.
Wait, let me kiss the badge. Okay, I'm done. Go ahead.
You have never been more obnoxiously American than you have in this moment. You are on par with those girls when we went and saw Germany.
Don't you dare say that. I have pride in my soccer team, not my nation. Okay? There is a distinction and a difference.
So at the time of recording, they have only played Portugal, but they've played Portugal twice. So the big question is does this give an indication to where the US national team is at? Or is this like with the Lionesses, this is the time for Hayes to just find the best players that she can and see what happens?
Oh, for sure the latter. For sure the latter. I mean, I joked with you earlier on when we were talking about the Lionesses, how Emma Hayes in every single press conference literally lectures fans being like, don't freak out, calm down. Let me explain this to you once again. She says this, I feel like she must be so sick of saying it, but it is not just time for experimentation, but it's time to get these youth players battle tested, honestly. And the US is in a funny spot. And I'll say this very succinctly because I feel like if you're a US Women's National Team fan, you've heard this a lot, but it's important because it's kind of like the impetus of all of what's happening with the US Women's National Team right now. You have a ton of players, you have some players, not actually all that many, but you have some players who are in their later 20s who have a ton of caps. Think Rose Lavelle, think Emily Sonnet, think Lindsay Heaps. And then you have a ton of players who are 19, 20, 21, maybe even 18, 19, 20, 21, who have like under 5 caps. And you don't really have the middle chunk. You don't have your like 22 to 27-year-olds who have like 30 caps. You don't really have that in the US Women's National Team right now. And we're not going to place blame on like why that is. We're going to move past that. And it doesn't matter whose fault it is. But that's where we are. And so Emma Hayes is trying to make sure that there is that middle chunk, especially come 2 years from now when those 21-year-olds are 23 and they should be further along in their development process. Because that's a scary prospect to have a few players with a ton of caps and then a ton of players with none. For example, you look at the starting lineup on the second Portugal game. Emily Sonnet was starting at center back. She had more caps than the entire rest of the other 10 players who were starting combined. There were 10 players who didn't even have 100 caps combined. And Emily Sonnet had more than them as a singular human. That's going to, it's wild. And that's going to put into perspective because it wasn't the prettiest game. But then you look at the lineup and you're like, of course. Well, that's why. It's like Emily Sonnet wearing the captain's armband with, I think it's like 111 caps. And then a bunch of players who have almost never played together, who have almost never played for the US Women's National Team, trying to implement Emma Hayes' tactics. It's not going to be the most beautiful game of soccer you've ever seen, but progress is progress. And as Emma Hayes said it, we're measuring this against the 2 games that they played in the previous international break. Did we make progress from there? And the answer is yes. The first game was horrific. It was pretty brutal. No, I'm not going to lie. But the point is that everybody's making progress. And there were so many bright spots, Allie. Like the game as a whole, kind of a snooze fest, not the most enjoyable if you're looking at the overall quality of football. But if you're watching the US Women's National Team, you're watching for bright spots, there are so many of them.
I'm not going to lie, it makes me feel so old that Emily Sonnet is the senior on the team because I'm like, I remember her being a rookie coming into this squad and now she is the captain with 100. No.
It's kind of tough. Yeah. You're like, no, but Emily Sonnet's the 24-year-old, right? No, Sonnet's the vet.
I think before we get into the games specifically, I do want to ask the question that I feel like a lot of fans are asking because it's the question that Emma Hayes is asking, which is goalkeepers. Are we any closer to getting a Neha replacement, or are we still just going to call up every American goalkeeper known to man to see what sticks?
Yeah, I think the answer is no. I will I will say that watching both of these games, I did actively have the thought watching them, thinking to myself, I don't think that this is enough for us to assess Fallon Tillis-Joyce, for example. It's tough to assess a goalkeeper when there's like a completely inexperienced backline in front of them. And maybe it's easier for somebody like Emma Hayes who can more easily isolate within the tactics of what they're trying to do defensively. Okay, who actually misstepped there? Because we don't know the intricacies, the details of what she wants her defense to do. But it's hard. It's tough to assess. I mean, that was a tough game. Fallon Tullis-Joyce got the start in the first Portugal match where the U.S. lost 2-1 against Portugal. And yeah, she let in 2 goals, but you can't assess her off of that. I think the only thing we can assess both of these goalkeepers on right now is how they played with their feet under pressure. And otherwise, I really just want to see more of them.
I just had to throw that in there because everybody is now asking who is going to be.
I didn't know everybody was asking that. Oh, I mean, I really think that there's Emma Hayes, like early on when she took over, she was giving timelines of goalkeepers, and she's just given up doing that. She's not giving timelines anymore. She's just, from what I can tell, I feel like we're going to have at least 6 more months of, and I say what I can tell because I've been joining these press conferences. So from what I can tell of these press conferences, because early on I was asking specifically about the goalkeeper situation to Emma Hayes, and she was giving timelines, and she's completely stopped giving timelines now, which is smart of her. I really do think in a minimum 6 months, we'll have more consistency and goalkeepers called up. But again, we just mentioned with the Lionesses, I feel like we have like another year of experimentation before you have to start locking things down. We could see that, honestly.
So, overall thoughts over the 2 games.
I mean, I feel like I said a lot of my overall thoughts. Like that, those weren't pretty games. We're not going to pretend that they were. It definitely should have been a 2-0 Portugal victory in game number 1 because Rose Lavelle's goal was one of the most offside goals I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, I was going to say that, but I didn't want you to call me like a bit of Betty or salty or whatever.
Like,
but
offside.
But I remember watching it and I was like, where's the flag? Where's the flag? Why has the flag not gone up? Where's the flag? And then it just didn't happen. And I was like, if I was Portugal, I would be very miffed.
Yeah, she was like 3 huge steps offside. Like, not close.
This wasn't like a toe or like having too big a foot offside. She was so offside. I was like,
super, super offside. Yeah. So that was a loss. That wasn't even, that was a loss. They responded well, at least in the second half. That's what I'll say about the first game. First half was pretty abysmal. Emma Hayes even said that in her halftime interview. She was basically like, nope, that was bad. That was bad. We got to do better. She was not pleased. And they made the adjustments in the second game. And it's interesting. She talked about in the post game after the second game, she spoke about how she has a lot of experience from Champions League and playing teams twice. So she actually felt like because of the loss, they could make some great adjustments against Portugal. And they were able to do so. For me, it's less about the games. It's less about the team performance. It's more about who are the bright spots across the board on this field. And Alyssa Thompson, I think, had an incredible both games. I guess I'll say the bright spots of people that of the newer players, because obviously like Sam Coffey and her ridiculously casual banger of a goal and like what she can do in the defensive center midfield. Obviously Sam Coffey's a highlight, but all of that aside, Rose Lavelle aside, everything. Alyssa Thompson was, in my opinion, a massive highlight. Seeing Catarina Macario, every time she steps back onto the pitch, she's closer and closer to the Catarina Macario that she was before she tore her ACL. And I feel like she's basically there now again. And she's such a bright spot. I can't wait to just keep seeing her play. She's just like a magnet on the field. You have to watch her. Jayden Shaw is having her resurgence. I thought she played an absolutely fantastic game in the 3-1 win against Portugal, the second match against them. She was involved in every play, and that's what you want from her. And as somebody who's used to playing the number 10, who was pushed out wide in that game, she was playing in more of like, they were playing a box. So she was, I guess, technically in the middle, but she was really had to stay on the left side quite a bit. And she was able to impact the game from the outside of the pitch, which I think she struggled with, and she was able to do it there. She's such a bright spot. Ali Sentner, such a bright spot as like a true number 9.
I was going to say, we called her out in the preview.
Such a bright spot. That speed, that ability to get in behind, that shot. And then for me, I'm biased because I played center mid. So for me, the highlight was getting to watch Claire Hutton and Lily Johannes play center midfield together, because in my opinion, at a certain point, and this is weird to say, just like it is with Sonnet, Rose Lavelle and Lindsay Heaps are the veterans on this squad. Odd. Strange. We move past it. Who is the future of this center midfield alongside Sam Coffey? In my opinion, it's Claire Hutton and Lily Johannes. And they were bright spots. I mean, Claire Hutton is always a bright spot, and so is Lily Johannes.
So all of your bright spots seems to be very attacking forward. So let's talk about my position and let's talk about defenders.
I feel like maybe I could answer that question a little bit better after the Wednesday night game against New Zealand, because all I saw was a lot of breakdowns across the defensive line, honestly. I saw a lot of breakdowns across the back four in both matches. I think every single player had moments of brilliance, and then every single player within the structure of the back line had moments where they were out of position, including Emily Sonnet. But that's what's going to happen. You have Emily Sonnet and three players who have never played all together. And especially with a back line, you know this, Allie, you need your back four to be solid together. And it just takes a lot longer to become more of a one mind that moves together in the way that it does. So harder to distinguish, I think.
So what are your hopes, feelings, dreams for New Zealand?
I would like to see a more cohesive back line. I would like to see a clean sheet. I know that we're not results focused right now, but I do think, I guess I'll put an asterisk on that. I would, if there's a repeat back line, if we're not getting four completely different players once again on the back line, if we're seeing the same back line that we saw, for example, in the first match, or if we're seeing 3 out of 4 be the same, I would like to see improvement there. I really think I think that's what I would be looking towards, because you can see how the offense is developing. It's very clear. So those are my hopes and dreams for New Zealand for sure. Maybe another Sam Coffey goal.
You don't offer much, do you?
I don't. I really don't. No. Maybe another hilarious interview with Emma Hayes at halftime. But all in all, it's been a fantastic international break, Allie. It has been hard for me. Sometimes when we were losing to Portugal, I was standing there being like, are we losing to Portugal? What? But then you have to let it go and you have to think about the big picture. And that's where I'm at right now. And hey, credit where credit is due. Portugal's gotten a lot better. Portugal were they might as well have not had a defense on the field the last time we saw them play in the pre-Euros friendlies, for example. It was abysmal. And they've made a lot of great adjustments. So good on Portugal. And that's it for us here at the Women's Soccer Show. A reminder to head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/the-WOSO show for more content. And we will see you next week on Wednesday. And for the Women's Soccer Show, I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.